Long time no see.
It's been a long time. You've even had a couple more than I have. How are you doing it?
Well, I can't remember if you were on the one. Yeah, it was the festival one there at the end when my dog started barking.
Oh yeah.
That was the Jimmy John's delivery person leaving my sandwich at the door. So yeah, little Jimmy John's, a lot of coffee. You know, that's
right.
Just get me through right now.
That's right. I am a big fan of Diet Coke, so.
Yeah, I feel you.
Hello, Krista.
Hi, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Fantastic. How are you all?
In an unrelated note, Becca Self just got off the phone with New York Times.
Stop!
They called her. I know.
That's awesome.
We're not exactly sure how the sort of source of the conversation, but yeah, I will catch up with her in more detail after we're done today, but super duper news.
Oh my gosh, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. I love it when the New York Times is writing nice things.
About Lexington.
Yes.
What's the context?
Food chain and the Nourish Initiative.
Oh, awesome. That's really cool. Sweet.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. How are we doing?
Hey, Quinn. How are you?
Hello, council member.
Good.
Hi. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Mary
Catherine.
Catherine. And Annie. It's like old home week on my screen.
I know.
Quinn, you want to read your
Is
disclaimer?
this everybody? Yeah.
I think we got everything.
We got everybody. I guess we're good to
So,
go.
Krista, Quinn has a disclaimer he needs to read real quick.
do your thing.
Thank you very much. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, state of emergency, and Governor Beshear's executive orders regarding social distancing, this meeting is being held via teleconference pursuant to Senate Bill 150, as signed by the governor on March 30th, 2020, and Attorney General Opinion 20-05, and in accordance with KRS 61.826, because it is not feasible to offer a primary physical location for the meeting. So thank you very much. And Krista, I'll let you get started.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Quinn. And thank you everyone for volunteering your time and energy to serve on this committee for the mayor. And we're going to kick it off with just brief introductions for the individuals on this call. I think we all know each other, but for the people who might be watching this recording later, my name is Krista Marilla, and I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Keeneland and going to be serving as the chair for this subcommittee. And we can just kind of move around the Hollywood squares. Mary Quinn, maybe Mary Quinn and Kip, maybe we start with you all as our chairs.
Go ahead, Mary Quinn.
Mary Quinn Raymer, Visit Lex. Delighted to see each of you today and happy to be finally at the stage of active recovery conversations in the journey on this of this pandemic. So very much appreciate your time and your wisdom. It's going to be very informative what we learn over the next week, and that will definitely inform our strategy moving forward.
Hello, I'm Kip with Cornet, and I am tag teaming with Mary Quinn on the visitor sector. And again, appreciate everybody's time, councilperson Jennifer and everybody else on here. And it's really been interesting. And Mary Quinn and Kevin and Quinn, I know you all and Ashton have been sitting in on these, and they've been very interesting. And I think they'll be very helpful, not only to the ones on this Brady Bunch call, but also with the rest of the committees as well. So thank you all.
I'll go next. I'm Ashton Potter-Wright. I'm the Director of Local Food and Agricultural Development for the City of Lexington in the Mayor's Office. And I'm staffing this. I'll be trying my best to capture the notes and highlights from today. And just, I want to thank you all again for agreeing to serve and for sharing your time and your insights. So thank you.
Council member.
Oh, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, we've been Zooming a lot this week, haven't we, Quinn? Jennifer Masadi, Council Member District 9. I guess the mayor put me on here because she knows I'm an avid equestrian and a horse owner. And as I look out the window thinking I better put those horses in the barn tonight because it's going to get really cold. So thanks for having me.
I can go next. Mary Catherine Jones. I'm the Director of Marketing at Red Mile Gaming and Racing. Really honored to be a part of this group. There's a lot of challenges for all of us to overcome, but I truly feel that, working together, we're going to be able to get through this as easily and as quickly, hopefully, as we can to get to recovery. So glad to be here.
This is John Kroll, the interim executive director from the horse part. I'm in my car right now, so if you lose me, I'll try to come back. Thank you for letting me be here.
I am Ann Hardy. I'm the executive director with Visit Horse Country. And I would just echo what everyone said. I am so thankful to be having this conversation and to be included in it. And we look forward to doing whatever we can to safely reopen and welcome folks back, both local and from wherever they would like to come.
And I'll wrap up. I'm Kevin Atkins, the Chief Development Officer for the mayor.
Excellent. Well, thank you all again. And we have a pretty basic agenda, but I think as far as the sandwich goes, we're kicking off with our introductions. We all know each other, but the meat of the discussion is going to really be on the State of the Union, on where we are now and our plans for reopening. And as we all know, the guidance that we receive both at the local and state level and federal level continues to change by the day. So even last night, we have new information that I think will be helpful for this group to discuss as our individual businesses and entities kind of pivot as we have more guidance. But one thing that I just wanted to mention, a bit of housekeeping, but I think it'll also be a valuable tool as Mary Quinn and Kip and the team develop kind of this master strategy. The survey that was sent out that had the list of 10 or so questions, I went on ahead and I dropped that into a Google Doc. We're big fans of Google Docs at Keeneland, especially in the age of working remotely. That's been a godsend for us. And I thought that would be a good tool for us all to share as our plans evolve. We can kind of make those changes and this group can see those in real time. So if you don't have that, I can share that again with you, but and we have Horse Country and Keeneland already populated in that. And so I think that will be a useful tool for us. And then really, I think what we can just start with is potentially we can go around and talk about where we are as far as the current activity that's happening at each of our different locations, attractions, and then where we are at this moment in time on our plans for reopening. And I'm happy to kick things off from Keeneland's standpoint. I shared a few documents because Keeneland's a little interesting in that we have kind of these two core business functions of racing and sales. And then we have these other business lines that these tentacles that come off the Keeneland from events, our tour programs, what we're doing on, the hospitality front, our retail arm. And to be completely transparent and no shock to everyone on this call that has intimate knowledge of the horse industry, our focus is very much on racing and sales and getting those two core business functions back for the good of the entire industry. That is our responsibility. And as much as we would love to get the tours going and the retail and all of these really important business lines, we have to have those things back. So right now we're very much in the throes of the operations plans of how do we safely bring people back on the property and abide by the parameters that have been outlined to us by the governor. So I have this in the Google Doc, but to give you some an idea of what's happening out there right now, of course, the majority of our workforce is working from home. Our essential employees, those are the individuals that care for the horses, that are there to be able for training to be taking place. They're the ones out there on the front lines. Whenever the COVID crisis first happened, we started the temperature screening. We have Metaport, a third-party company on site, that anyone who accesses the property has to be screened, and whenever they're coming on site. Since this past week, the governor gave us clearance for spectator-free racing. We are really focused on how we can bring back some of those spring stakes races. We all know that purse money is so incredibly valuable for our breeders and for our participants. So we're focusing a lot of energy on how do we kind of develop that Keeneland protocol to where we can conduct some type of racing this summer. And so there's conversations happening on obtaining race dates. Since we don't have race dates, our race dates were in April. We don't have race dates in the summer. And then working with developing a plan to go to the governor for approval and of course have the blessing of the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission. Parallel to that, we're also working on our sale. And the September yearling sale is the biggest thoroughbred auction in the world. It's a global event, and it's paramount. It's mission critical to our industry. And so we are developing a multitude of scenarios of how we conduct that sale in depending on what the restrictions are. If people are not able to be on site, here's a scenario. Online auction, really leveraging digital, multiple forms of bidding, viewing horses, conducting the sale with strict social distancing and what have you. So there's kind of three scenarios that we're exploring. So I tell you guys that just to kind of give you a little bit of background on the processes and protocols and kind of where we are. We've also identified members of our team, like our hospitality team. They are developing a plan for each of those scenarios too. How do we service our customers? How do we, slowly, from a hospitality standpoint, what will we be able to do and stay within these restrictions, both for racing and sales? Same thing on our, broadcast front. Those are kind of the different pockets that are happening right now. So that wasn't a quick State of the Union, but that's kind of where we are at Keeneland. Thank you for letting me ramble, and then maybe I can pass things off to John. John, do you want to chime in and give us an update on what's happening at the park?
Sure. Thanks, Krista. At the park, we're in the same boat as you guys at the park. But we're a state agency, so we are totally at the will of the governor right now. But, and we're like fivefold. We have a tourist attraction, we have our venue, we basically have an indoor venue, and then we have a campground. So we're kind of dealing with a lot of moving parts to try to come up with different protocols and different ways to phase this all in when we're given the go ahead to start some form or factor. But for the venue portion, which is what we're talking about here, is the horse shows. We're basically totally partnering with the USCF on the guidelines that they've put out for all of our organizers. And I know if anyone sat through their webinar, I think just this last Monday, they explained all that and they've got it up on their site. And so it's actually a very good working document to kind of frame around. So that's where we're at right now. And we're waiting from word from the governor. I guess next week we'll hear more solid type numbers. And so we're just having to talk with all the organizers that are chomping at the bit to get out there, just like everybody is.
Okay. I hear you. It's hurry up and wait. And do you want to provide us with a horse country update and just kind of speaking, you're also representing all the farms there. So you can also speak to kind of what's cooking beyond Visit Horse Country.
Sure. So our organization is a not-for-profit and we are membership-based. So we have 40 different farms, equine medical clinics, a feed mill that comprise our membership. And obviously tourism at the farms was one of the first things to go just in response to the health and safety concerns related to COVID. The farms have, much like Keeneland, some essential employees that have to be there to care for the horses and make sure that the farm stays running. Lots of those folks actually live on the farms as well. So those folks have continued to be at the farms performing their jobs with a variety of protocols to ensure all those health and safety measures. But since about mid-March, we have basically canceled all tours. And currently that cancellation does run through the end of May as far as pre-sales go. And what we've just been doing is trying to work through the best practices for whenever that future date is that folks would be able to come back and visit. Of course, all dependent on the intent to travel or the willingness to or interest in actually engaging with leisure travel, which I don't think any of us really know what that timeline is. But really, most of our experiences do happen out of doors and are in really small groups. Our biggest concern right now is just to serve our members and trying to find and identify those best practices so that when it's appropriate, we can go forward with socially distanced experiences if necessary, driving experiences potentially, just really trying to think outside the box. And then also trying to continue offering some sort of hope and goodwill from the industry to our guests through virtual tours, which has been happening also since soon after we started. Unfortunately, it doesn't generate any revenue, but it has been a really wonderful way that we've been able to keep folks far and near connected to the bluegrass. And we're really thankful that we've been able to be a part of that. I'll just share, so far, there are more than 200,000 views on a single tour of Claiborne Farm on Facebook Live. And when you think about, we've not yet had, that many people through live tours since Horse Country started doing tours, that's a pretty amazing thing. And among those viewers, from direct feedback that we've had, are international viewers, people across the US, healthcare and frontline workers, school groups that are watching with teachers, parents and kids, and then just folks that are looking for a little bit of sunshine in their lives. So, I'm certainly optimistic about our options for reopening. And in the meantime, we are just trying to kind of stay afloat during this difficult time and do what we can to support.
Great. Mary Catherine.
All right. Well, we are currently obviously entirely shut down. And we kind of have, similarly to all of us, we kind of have a few different avenues to go through. The gaming floor is completely shut down. And luckily at this point in time, we don't have horses on site and do not have horses on site until a little bit later in the summer. But in terms of what we have going on site currently, it is only essential personnel, security, surveillance, a handful of directors and leadership. Everyone is screened upon arrival, temperature checks, and provided with PPE. So that is really the extent of what's happening on site currently. We are in the midst of planning for the reopening of the gaming floor, and then also simultaneously planning for what our race meet will look like later in this summer. We have been really fortunate in that, as Krista mentioned, all the racetracks have been really great at working together and sharing plans and resources and how everyone's going about the racing side. And then likewise, the other gaming facilities in the state have been very forthright with their plans, and we've all shared kind of together what the thoughts are, what it will look like to reopen. And there's a lot to think through, and we have not finalized those plans, but we've been gathering that information and extensively looking into what the challenges will be with our property. We have several in that we're a large facility, multiple points of entry, how to kind of divvy up how that's all going to work. So that's been interesting. We hope to have that plan finalized very soon, and I'm happy to share that with you when it is. Likewise, in terms of the racing side of things, typically horses wouldn't be on site until about mid-July. So we are obviously taking cues from Churchill as they reopen, the plans that have been formulated by all the racetracks and how we will be implementing those for our race meet. You know, we have the benefit of, we don't have, our race days are a little more spread out. We have some, I think, different challenges in regards to our race meet, but also I think maybe some things that might make this situation a little bit easier. We don't have a 30,000 plus crowd at Red Mile for race meet. So we have some differences there. The also thing that we have to consider is the simulcasting side of things. We obviously have our simulcasting from Red Mile, and then Keeneland also has their simulcasting side of things over at Red Mile. So looking at what that floor of our facility will look like upon reopen, social distancing, how to encourage people to go online if possible. But looking at all of those situations, I think that we feel good about where we are. We've got supplies either ready to go or on order. A lot of planning is going into the actual physical changes that are going to happen on site upon reopen. Even though we don't have a date, we're very much want to be as prepared as possible for whenever we get that information. So I feel that we are in a good place in terms of really getting those wheels churning and how to reopen. But we're consistently thinking of new challenges. And I think that we're all going through that simultaneously. You know, you think of one thing and then it brings up another issue that you hadn't thought of. So that's kind of where we are at the current moment.
Mary Catherine, I think that's a perfect pivot in talking about some of the challenges that we each as an entity are thinking through, and opportunities where we can either work together or ask for assistance in being able to hit some of these benchmarks that have been identified by the governor. And if you wouldn't mind, if you could speak a little bit to what are some of the challenges that Visit Horse Country needs to overcome in order to kind of build that restart plan, whether it's from the screening or PPE or just social distancing and beyond. And maybe we can go around the Zoom on that.
Sure. I mean, I think like everyone, we have monitored the U.S. Travel Association, we've monitored chambers and national organizations, medical liability, really every topic that we could all think of. And I think that our challenge is we have certainly a financial challenge to overcome, in that we all are experiencing, especially those that are relying on guests and visitors. We've had a ton of refunds and folks needing to make adjustments to their travel plans. So that has certainly been something that we're working to overcome from an operational standpoint, just to allow us to continue going forward. But then making sure that we are protecting, first and foremost, the people that are involved, both the staff of the farms and also our guests and visitors. So, you know, we have looked into PPE for guests and hosts, different amplification methods for the tours, closing off certain areas and limiting access to any kind of interior or closed building spaces that the tours might typically operate in, following different regulations for different parts of those tours is also something that we're looking into, because we would often have portions of a tour that might be normally inside a vehicle that we will not be doing, I think, for the foreseeable future. Putting any kind of strangers into a single kind of very closed location, I think that has been temporarily eliminated. Following retail rules when it comes to a gift shop that might have limited space and limited ability for social distancing will be part of our recommendations. And then trying to integrate those social distance best practices for when people are actually out of doors, offering enhanced sanitation options for guests, so having hand sanitizer at different touch points, increasing the number of trash receptacles that are available to ensure that people can dispose of any personal hygiene items that they might need to do so in a safe manner. All of those things are things we're looking into. We're also considering the size of these experiences. So typically our largest groups that come through are 50 if it's people who come all together in a bus, which again, I don't really see happening in the near term, 25 to 30 if it's normal. So I think that we'll see both a very natural sort of culling of that crowd, and we're also looking into reducing our capacity for those tours for a period of time.
John, do you mind to speak a little bit about plans for I know you're waiting on word from higher powers, but if you could speak to some of the challenges that you guys are looking at in being compliant with these benchmarks as you look at your multifaceted operations that are happening at the horse park. I know it's not a blanket plan for you guys either.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about like the tourist attraction, when you come in our VIC, I mean, we're looking at that we're going to have to tempt every visitor that comes in. We're planning on if they don't have PPE, having to provide it. Same thing, offering up more trash receptacles so that when you don't have to hunt and fish to be hygienic. Probably putting spacing down so that people understand, social distancing spaces in all over the tourist area. Providing for the museum, how we're going to deal with that, we don't know. I mean, we're phasing that in different phases, possibly having to do scheduled type things where they'll be taken around personally. It's lots of things there. Then when you get out to the actual horse show end of it, this is where it's going to be interesting, because under the USCF guidelines, the organizer is going to be responsible for those competitors coming in and making sure that they're proper, practicing proper social distancing, they have proper PPE and so on. But us as the venue owner, we're going to have to then step up our housekeeping and keep all of the bathrooms sanitized on a timely basis. All those kind of things. I mean, it's so much going on. It's been hard for us to kind of wrap. We've kind of got a plan that's like 30,000 feet in the air, but as the date of us opening is coming more and more, we're having to sit down with department heads to come up with something down to a total granular level type plan. I mean, and as you guys know, it's not easy. I mean, it's been hard getting guidance of, to kind of get a base, this is how we want you to do it type thing.
I think granular is definitely the what we're all living, and it's difficult because you are planning for a multitude of scenarios, and everyone on this call, there are so many different facets to our attractions that it isn't straightforward. different
Yeah,
audiences, and it's tricky.
Yeah, each day it changes too. So I mean, your target is changing on a daily basis, but you don't know what that target is today. Tomorrow it could be something totally different. So I'm sure everyone's chasing their tails the same way.
You know, one thing, John, that you spoke to, and Mary Catherine, I'm curious on Red Mile as well. You know, the screening and that piece of the equation is it's complex, and you know, from Keeneland's standpoint, it's we're going in a couple different areas, and happy to share any learnings as we build our airplane in the air as well. But we're looking at private companies to assist with our screening and testing, because essentially, in order for us to operate or conduct racing, we have to actually test, not just do a temperature check, but we have to test the participants. We also are having conversations with University of Kentucky, had a great call with them yesterday. And you know, one thing that I wanted to pass along to this group is you think about these different layers of screening. And for some larger businesses, Mary Quinn and Kip, this could be a good learning. But what the University of Kentucky is doing right now is they have a digital portal. It's almost like a web form that all of their employees, before they go into the office, they fill out a web form that the screenings that are happening at a lot of properties right now, it's done digitally. And you would think that a lot of these employees would say, okay, yes, I don't have a temperature, don't have shortness of breath. Well, they're being very honest with it, and they are catching some COVID situations or people who may be at risk before they even come into the office. So this may be widespread, but the way that it is, it's a web form, and you have kind of the bucket of, here's individuals that get the all clear, and then they proceed to coming to work, and then they have their checkpoint. Here's the individuals that are kind of right on the cusp of maybe we need to give them a phone call, and then here's the individuals that they need to go straight and get a COVID test. And if that was the first I'd heard of that precaution. And I think for some of the bigger employers or entities, as we're bringing people in, or I don't know, Anne, like for a horse country tour, is there an automated form that goes to people before they even go on the experience, if you have their information, just to have an additional safeguard that would be low cost, but shows a different, an added layer of precaution?
I think you hit on something good, because there are definitely two buckets of how we handle people. And one is employees of both horse country and our farms, which temperature screenings, wellness checks, all of those things are certainly going to be a part of reopening. I mean, our team will probably continue to telework for the foreseeable future. But that is kind of one bucket of management that we can, screen and health check your employees and your hosts. But dealing with the general public is really a different thing. So we are looking at a number of different things. I've talked with several different folks that have not specifically advised us to conduct temperature checks at the farm for a number of reasons, because the data is somewhat unreliable. It can vary from person to person. It can't be relied upon as a sole, sort of insurance policy, because so many people are asymptomatic either in the developmental phase or asymptomatic even while they might be in their viral shedding. So we haven't necessarily been given advice that temperature screening for a general population is going to be a best practice, but we have looked into enhanced waiver. We'll be reviewing our waiver for liability concerns, but we're also going to be utilizing our confirmation emails with folks to prompt them to say, have you been exposed to someone are you feeling unwell? So really prompting them to take stock of that and doing so within a time frame that would still allow them flexibility within that booking, that we could cancel or reschedule them for a time in the future. And then we haven't fully decided on it, but there has been some recommendation about adding to our waiver, which guests do have to acknowledge when they come on these tours and purchase them, adding sort of an affidavit or a statement that you're coming to this with good health, as far as you know, because there are different things, and some of them are truly preventive, and some of them, frankly, concern liability as well. So I think we're trying to explore all of those options, and that's why I think that there will be some tours that, 10 people outside standing far away from each other, I'm not as concerned about. I think that there will certainly be locations that just have a longer timeline before things go back to normal, even with these precautions in place, because it won't make as much sense in terms of preserving health and safety. So I think that we will likely have a phased approach even within our membership based on those individual members' ability to comply with those things, comfort level with being able to manage those forward-facing things, and then just the facilities.
It's interesting, Mary Quinn, I know, and obviously Kevin and Quinn, you've set in on so many of these, just in the visitor sector, we have 8 different subcommittees, and then there's ones outside of those. But obviously, I think the whole temperature check thing is something that is, kind of on the forefront of everybody's minds. Obviously restaurants and bars. We just earlier talked to folks that are, running, tap rooms. So, I definitely think, a part of the value of this whole exercise, I think, is we're getting a lot of different perspectives, and everybody's got a little bit different challenge on, that one particular area for sure. So this is great to get, this information from every sector that we're getting. And I'm sure, again, I've not said in a lot. I can only imagine what the restaurants and bars conversation was like, but it's good that we're getting, all this different input and concerns and eventually clarifications as we go forward. So thanks.
Go ahead, Mary Quinn.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I've been hearing a lot about, and I shared this with an earlier group, is that there is a responsibility. So there's clearly a responsibility on our end, right, as those providing the services or the experiences, but there's also a responsibility on the individual that's coming as a visitor. And of course, we don't have any magic wand to wave to make that happen, but we can be very thoughtful and disciplined in the way that we handle that in messaging, on our website and social media, PSAs. If I'm Keeneland or Red Mile and you're walking around the property, there can be like the safety prompts that are coming over the loudspeakers. And also, I think signage, there's just a lot of, I think a sense, at least at the level, that the need for repetition and visible cues is key. And so it's going to probably seem redundant to us, but I think it will help sort of drive home this message that you as a visitor to our campus have a personal responsibility in this as well, because there's no way we can manage it all on our end. So the more we can be proactive in pushing out that message and having a consistent message across the travel continuum, the better we stand to fare as a destination.
Yeah, great point.
I think you really hit on something there, Mary Quinn. I was in a webinar, a call yesterday with one of the Brown-Forman executives, and he kind of went through, because they have this global operation, they really encountered some of this stuff earlier and have had to develop processes that are more in place than some of us may have. And it's everything from increased signage, floor markings, which I think we've talked about, but it was also team members wearing shirts that kind of jokingly say, stay 6 feet away. And I think that when we talk about tourism too, the other thing that we're really looking into is, in addition to those communication platforms, how can we adjust our policies so that we give people the flexibility to make the best decision for themselves and for the greater public? The policies that we may have had in place in the earlier times may require some flexibility just to give incentives to people to make those good decisions.
And Anne, earlier you mentioned the affidavits, and I think that's something that having sat on a lot of these subcommittee meetings the past few days, I think that's something that a lot of people are looking at currently. So I think that's a great thought.
Quinn, can I chime in just for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Although I'm not a business owner or have to deal with specifically one of these industries, I can tell you the biggest thing that I hear from constituency is just the processing of information. There's so many different avenues out there, everything from the news cycles to Facebook to all these different sources, that I think there's a lot of confusion on exactly what's going on, where do people go, what's available, and they need that. They need some structure. So as soon as we can kind of formulate this and push it out to the public, because again, with the misinformation, it gets a lot of frustration, and that's what we're hearing. We don't know about this, or why didn't you tell us about this, or when is this going to happen? So that's key, just the dissemination of information.
I'll chime in on that, Jennifer. I mean, one of the things that I found very interesting through all of this is I feel fortunate that we have been able to maintain a line of communication with our guests through social media. And I also have, they want information. They are hungry for information. And
exactly.
The hardest part for all of us is that we don't know everything. And that has, what we've tried to do is, as soon as we can give any kind of update with information, even if it's vague, we try and do that through email and social media. And, it at least gives people a sense of, okay, they're working on it. That it's in progress. And so I think 2 days ago, I sent out an email that it didn't say a reopening date. We're temporarily still closed, but this is what we're working on, and working towards putting your safety first as the guest, as well as that of our employees. And I think you hit that on the head. It's getting that communication to them and making them feel like, okay, they've thought this through. And I think for us at Red Mile, our next real big piece of communication is letting them know, what is it exactly going to be like when you come back? Because I think people are anxious, what is it? Am I going to have to go through this rigorous testing? What is it? How am I going to stand in line? Do I have to be outside? There's a million questions that come with, okay, what's it going to be like? So I think for us, that's where we are, is how to, and back to that word granular, getting those granular details to our guests and patrons and letting them know, okay, when you arrive, this is what to expect. This will be our protocol. A couple of the challenges that we've been thinking about are, if we have, a kind of a bottleneck in intake, because we will be limiting to one entrance. We will be having health screenings and temperature checks. Well, what if there's a bottleneck of people? I don't want, 50 some odd people waiting in a line. So how do we implement a structure and a situation that provides them safety and social distancing, particularly if it's inclement weather, how does that all work? And so we're working through those so that we can communicate that appropriately to the guests. Some great ideas that have come up is do you get a, almost like you do at a restaurant, like a disc that vibrates and is red when you can come in? We've thought of, and they can wait in their cars if that's the case. What are the things that we can do to provide them with a safe and comfortable experience when they come? So, but yeah, I think communication is of the utmost importance, and the amount of signage and communication upon reopen will be extensive. And I think, but that's an interesting challenge, for a lot of smaller venues outside of us, but still in the tourism industry, is that's expensive. Getting that signage, getting all of that prepared, particularly if you want it to look a certain way, so I think that'll be an interesting challenge for definitely some smaller entities on the tourism spectrum. But yeah.
No question. people are anxious, but they want to plan. And that's just a secure feeling. I think that's the bottom line.
Definitely.
I think also whenever we all kind of align on that plan, to Mary Quinn's point and also Mary Catherine, the consistency in that messaging, I think that that lends credibility to whenever this whole pandemic started. I'm sure everyone, I mean, I have the COVID CDC flyer like burned into my brain because it was literally everywhere. It was everywhere and it was effective. I knew the hand wash, every single infographic there. So that's more of a tactical play, but I think the consistency in messaging and signage across all of our venues would be incredibly valuable. And it would probably have even more compliance. So, and then, yeah, over communicate. And we've experienced this same thing, Mary Catherine, on the communication side with our customers, as everyone on this call knows. After the minute the spring meet was canceled, I mean, everyone's like, when are you racing? And we just didn't know. We didn't know. There was a lot of things that had to happen. And to be completely open, I mean, there was a while that it was like, okay, let's get our plan, let's build it, let's make sure that it's baked, and then we will communicate. Okay, to say we actually don't know, but here are the steps that we are taking. So we have newsletters and using our social handles for more than, bacon bread pudding with buckles. I mean, it's substance, and it's been incredibly effective and well received, especially by our horsemen who they want to know, okay, you're still working on it. Okay, great, we're fine. So I echo that sentiment. As far as I want to make sure that I hit kind of the high points, and Mary Quinn, Kip, please chime in if there is an area of focus that you feel like we have not touched on as we're kind of pulling together. We're incubating now, and we're going to be pulling together the master plan. But one item that was also mentioned in our agenda of, we've all scaled back our operations. We are working towards slowly rejuvenating, restarting. But then, of course, there is the threat of this happening again. And maybe we just spend, I don't know, it's kind of a depressing thing to think about, but I guess we have to. Yeah. And Kip, was there something that you wanted to chime in on that, or just?
No. I'm just saying, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, but it is something that we need to prepare for.
So I'll start. Oh, John, you go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in on that. I mean, that's like what we've kind of, our big reopening plan, we've kind of done it right now into like 3 phases. We're probably going to widen that out a little bit. So like you say, if there's problems down the line, you can drop back a phase if we have, or 2 if you have to, so that at least you already have protocols in place, if you know what I mean. So.
That's similar to Keeneland's strategy. Like I said, kind of early on, we're planning for the worst case scenario. Because if you have the worst case scenario in place, then it's wonderful when you don't have to deploy all of those tactics. So we have a plan built for spectatorless into the fall meet. It's not fun to talk about, but you have to plan for it, as well as how we would conduct our sale if people weren't able to attend the sale. It doesn't appear that is going to be the case, that we will be able to have participation, but it's going to be in a limited capacity. If we're kidding ourselves if we think that it's going to be the normal operations. But similar to what you're saying, John, we'll have those plans and those strategies in place to where if we have to dial it back, if another resurgence comes in the fall, we'll be prepared to do so.
Yep, totally agree.
And there's, again, I think having those plans are obviously smart, and obviously too is the choice of scaling back operations may or may not be our choice. It could be dictated from local or state, government. So anyway, but I think, there's no question that everybody's learned a lot through this. And I think, again, the learning curve is going to be a little bit shorter with dealing with it if there is the second time around. But it's also good to go ahead and start thinking about it and not wait to when you get that call or when you see where the governor says, that's enough, we're going back to phase one. Be prepared for it.
Well, and one thing I think that is a tremendous opportunity for us is the fact that a lot of us do have kind of this outdoor experiences. From Keeneland's standpoint, we're certainly better leveraging technology solutions for our core business. We're going to be getting very creative if and when we have a summer racing festival or whatever it becomes. There's an opportunity to have watch parties from home, 10 people, and celebrate and raise the profile, wager from apps and phones to try to drive revenue into those purses that goes to our horsemen. So when we come out of this, we're definitely all going to be, or Keeneland's going to be much more technologically savvy, but I think we're all going to be very creative in how we work together to find new ways to promote Lexington and promote our signature industry.
So Krista, as we we're going to have to wrap up here in just a minute, this meeting, but for the next one, I guess Ashton, we should maybe discuss this with our agriculture subcommittee. We felt that what we could do after our initial meeting was everybody kind of send in what their plans and use the information that we discussed at this meeting to kind of inform our final document, and then send that over to Krista and let her kind of take a look. And if we feel like we need to have another meeting, we could call another meeting, or if we feel like we should go ahead and schedule another meeting now, I suppose we can do that. Ashton, do you have any thoughts on that?
I'll defer to Krista. The ag one was a little bit different just because most of ag has still been open, general ag. And so it was a little bit easier to kind of compile. So we just compiled the notes, but also their protocols, how they're operating now. So yeah, I mean, I'll defer to Krista if she thinks we feel like based on the responses to the questions you sent out, and then also folks sending in, kind of plans as they have them, whether they're draft form or, final documents, we can include those. But Krista, I'll defer to you. What do you think about that?
Well, I think maybe where we start, if the survey questionnaire could maybe serve as the foundation, I'd love to wrap that up and have all of, and if you want to just send me the Word document, if you were able to fill that out, I'm happy to populate that and go through that with Kip and Mary Quinn. And then I think between the three of us, we can take a look and determine if we need to have it set up another formal call. I mean, the good news is the horse industry is very tight knit. I talk to all these folks all the time, so it's not a big deal for us to jump on another call. Right. But I think we can quickly turn around what we need. Mary Quinn, Kip?
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely agree. Just what's most important for us as we move toward next Friday's deadline is just simply what you've got, even if it's in draft form and not official. And again, keep in mind that we're going to be rolling everything into one big consolidated document. So it's not going to call out any specific organization or institution. It's more just to see where we've got some shared common ground. As the mayor said when she kicked us off, good common sense application for how we reopen. So if you guys can send that to us, then we will roll it into a document that will inform the overall blueprint, and that would be fantastic. And then of course, by virtue of your participation, we'll be sharing that with you all just as soon as it is ready to be sent to the governor.
Krista, I might make the suggestion, if you think there's going to be a need for another meeting, it's easier to cancel a meeting. These are
Sure.
public meetings, so on the record, it may be better to go ahead and set a time. If you don't need it, we can always cancel it.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Quinn, do you want to suggest when
Yeah,
calendars open?
sure. So if 2 o'clock is a good time for everybody, how does Thursday at 2 sound?
Good here.
Good for me.
I can do that.
I could do 2:30.
2:30? Yeah, that should be fine as well for me.
Okay.
Ashton, if you want to put that on the Google sheet and just change it to 2:30, that's fine.
Excellent. Well, I think we've covered enough for today. Quinn and Ashton, thank you so much for putting this together and herding the cats, with me being the most scatterbrained cat of them all. It's wonderful to also have our council members on. Kevin and Jennifer, thank you so much for joining the call. We very much appreciate your representation and leadership through this time. And Mary Quinn and Kip, thanks for leading the team. And I think I can speak on behalf of our subcommittee. We are all just honored to be able to serve in this capacity, and just sharing these ideas and this commentary on this call has been incredibly beneficial. And I have quite a bit to go back to the Keeneland family about. So thank you for that as well.
Okay, thank you, Krista.
Okay,
Thanks,
everybody have a
everyone.
wonderful weekend.
Thank you all so
Happy
much.
Mother's Day.
Hey,
Yeah,
Rob.
Mother's Day.